Ever looked at that dark, sticky jar of molasses in your pantry and thought, what even is this stuff? Well, you're looking at a substance with a surprisingly dark, sticky, and world-changing history. Molasses is more than just a sweetener for cookies. It's a byproduct of sugar refining that fueled economies, sparked a revolution, and even caused one of the strangest disasters in American history. So, let's dive into the fascinating story of molasses. It all starts with sugarcane. After the cane is harvested, washed, and crushed to extract its juice, the real magic begins. The juice is boiled to crystallize the sugar. The first boil gives us light molasses, the sweetest kind, with the most sugar left in it. The second boil produces dark molasses, which is less sweet, a bit thicker, and has a more robust flavor. One more boil and we get blackstrap molasses. This is the thickest, darkest, and least sweet of all, but it's packed with the vitamins and minerals left behind from the sugarcane plant, like iron and calcium. Now for that disaster I mentioned. Picture Boston, January 15, 1919. It was an unusually warm winter day. Suddenly, a massive storage tank, over 50 feet tall and holding 2.3 million gallons of molasses, burst. A sticky brown wave, estimated to be 15 feet high, surged through the streets at 35 miles per hour. It was a horrifying, bizarre tragedy known as the Great Boston Molasses Flood, which flattened buildings, trapped people and animals, and left the city smelling of molasses for decades. It's a stark reminder of the industrial power this simple syrup represented. But the story gets even darker when we look at the 18th century. Molasses was a cornerstone of the infamous triangle trade. Here's how it worked. Ships would leave New England loaded with rum. They'd sail to West Africa, trade the rum for enslaved people, then endure the horrific Middle Passage to the Caribbean. There, the enslaved people were sold, and the ships were loaded with molasses, which was then brought back to New England to be distilled into more rum. It was a brutal, dehumanizing economic cycle. And molasses was right at its heart, turning a sweet commodity into a symbol of immense suffering and exploitation. This trade was so lucrative that when Britain tried to control it, things got heated. In 1733, Parliament passed the Molasses Act, imposing a heavy tax on molasses imported from non-British colonies like the French West Indies. The goal was to force American colonists to buy more expensive British molasses, but the colonists didn't comply. Instead, they became expert smugglers. This widespread defiance of British law wasn't just about cheap sweetener. It was one of the first major acts of collective resistance against British economic control, planting the seeds of resentment that would eventually blossom into the American Revolution. So how did this controversial syrup end up in our cookies? It's all about a little science called hygroscopy. Molasses is hygroscopic, meaning it attracts and holds onto water molecules from the air. This is why molasses cookies stay so wonderfully soft and chewy. In fact, that's the main difference between brown sugar and white sugar. Brown sugar is just white sugar with some molasses added back in. The more molasses, the darker and moister the brown sugar. From a driver of the colonial economy and a key player in the slave trade to a cause of urban disaster and a secret weapon in baking, molasses has a legacy far richer and more complex than you might expect. It's a humble pantry staple that tells a sweeping story of industry, rebellion, tragedy, and science. So the next time you bake a batch of gingerbread cookies, you'll know you're not just using a sweetener, you're using a little piece of history. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more surprising stories about everyday things.